suffer from multiple head traumas to start season 3. What do you say?
I could get on board with that.
Let's wear helmets. Got to protect ourselves from potential, TBI, traumatic brain injury. It's good. It's a good safety precaution. Don't get concussions.
It's not a good season for Tom so far. This is going to be the second consecutive episode where he's getting his ass kicked.
Yes, and suffering from brain trauma. It's like, my God, by the time this man gets through the rest of the season, he's going to be like Lenny from Mice of Men. He's just going to be good for crushing pet mice and steering the ship.
Do you think that it's like the guy who got struck by lightning 30-something times, that once he went through Threshold and had something so extreme happen to him that it has like made him a supernatural bad luck candidate?
Is he the O'Brien of the show? Is what you're asking. Is he made to suffer? That could be.
Is O'Brien made to suffer? Because I always thought Worf... Oh, are you talking about DS9 O'Brien or
Oh, DS9 O'Brien, bro. There's so many things that we'll uncover when we eventually get there.
Because if we're going with TNG suffering, I don't think anything's going to top the shit that Worf goes through on a regular basis.
They really make up for that in DS9 for him. They go out of their way to show how fucking badass Worf is as much as possible.
Well, I'll tell you what, he deserves it. And speaking of deserving,
yes,
we deserve to be loved. We deserve likes. We deserve. Let me take a Tom Paris moment out of Threshold. We were destined for great things, Joe. Our parents told us.
That's true.
Our teachers told us. Our classmates told us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did something bad, and we made a podcast, and we had to go to space jail. But we've reformed, and we are deserving of love, and we need to cross that threshold. Listeners at home, we're looking at you. Push this out in front of your friends if they kind of like Trek. Push them out in front of your friends if they like profanity. We've got a lot of that.
It's true.
The more the merrier with this thing. And we've been having a good time, and hopefully you guys have been having a good time too. And misery and good time loves company. So if you're either ends of that spectrum, throw us out there. And
yeah, much love and respect to those that do share us on the regular. We just do see the steady stream of new folks here and there, and we want to make that stream a rushing river of schadenfreude and pain and clenched fists of strange joy and suffering. So the more you bring in, the more you're joined in fellowship with those on the journey with you. And truly, that's what the journey's all about.
That's what the Voyager's about. Also, speaking of entitlement, we're all entitled to some more good Star Trek by way of the Orville Season 2. We're recording this on December 19th, 2018, and on December 30th, the true successor to Next Gen, Seth MacFarlane's Orville, is going to be coming out. Season 1 was excellent. Season 1 was my candidate for what I wanted to do this podcast originally around, so...
That is true, ladies and gentlemen. This was supposed to originally be an Orville podcast. I convinced Peter that we'd run out of content too quickly.
And boy, were you right, man. We would have blown right through that.
But definitely the best Star Trek show on TV right now. I'd say maybe the only one. I just love that Seth MacFarlane captured the essence of the show in a way that I don't think anyone anticipated, and sort of backdoored his way into doing TNG reboot. And just like down to the way that all the sets feel like they're a Holiday Inn Express, just like TNG. Ugh, perfect. Just feels right.
Well, my hope, and we've talked about this before, is that whatever the pretense that there has to be humor in the episodes kind of is lifted off, that they've proven the product, and that, they can make the show they want to make without any obligations to Fox.
I think that they started to do that already by, I'd say, midway through season 1.
I agree, but I'd like to see that trend continue. I was thinking about how we say it's it's a successor to Star Trek. It's been a while since I've been, I can't even tell you honestly the last Trek convention I was at. I've certainly been to a couple. I snuck into a Star Trek convention once in.
Whoa! You're burying the lead there, son. You gotta tell that story.
So I was 18 and we did a trip up to Canada with some of my friends from high school, and I had a big crush on one of our friends, and she had decided that we were going to be just friends at that point. But we're out walking around the Niagara area, and I saw some Klingons crossing the street, and she's like, "What the heck is that?" And I was like, "I know goddamn well what that is. That's a Star Trek convention going on somewhere, and if you see Klingons out after 10 o'clock, it means that there's a party going down. So we're just going to follow these Klingons to the booze." And I forget how I bullshit us through the security badge check area. It's probably because my friend was hot.
Probably.
And we just party hard with some Starfleet and some Klingons, and I don't know what the drinking age is in Canada, but we were probably drinking illegally, and it was a great time.
That sounds like the best version of that story. You know what I mean?
Truth, like,
there's a number of ways a story that starts with "I snuck into a Star Trek convention" could go to bad or otherwise regrettable places. You found the line on that, which is, "I snuck my way into a drinking party with people that have funny costumes on because I was with my friend who is attractive."
Drinking and dancing. That's
peak.
That was peak. Good. But anyway, so Star Trek conventions, I have to assume at this point there's some Orville costumes, some uniforms floating around out there. Like how many dozens of Trek costumes at a Trek convention do you think you have to go through before you start seeing some Orville duty uniforms?
I guess, I mean, I imagine it's going to get more and more popular. I haven't been to a Star Trek convention ever.
Really?
So it's impossible for me to be, not once, not ever.
And sounds like you guys need to go on that Kate Mulgrew cruise.
Yeah, apparently Kate Mulgrew's going to headline the 2020 Trek cruise, which, if it wasn't going to cost us infinity dollars, sounds like a great way for us to do a live version of our podcast among people who would hate it.
How many conversations just like this do you think are going on right now in the various podcasts across the internet for Star Trek? Here's what here's the script for this Star Trek cruise, right? There's going to be some podcasters it'll be you and me, right? In a real rush to go off. No, maybe not you and me. Some other podcasters, some very famous podcasters with thousands. They're going to be in a rush to get somewhere on the ship. And then, like Anchorman, they're going to get surrounded by podcasters from all the other local affiliates and like Spanish special access for a big podcaster knife fight with tridents and pistols and chains. Only instead of like red blazers, everybody will have Picard's off-duty uniform from season 5.
You know, I just want to kill somebody that does a TNG podcast with a trident. So that's where I'm at. Like, I know we would win that fight too. You and I are scrappers, man. And some of these guys are not in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we could probably run some hot game.
I don't know, man. I'm getting old, and I'll tell you what. Here's my shameful admission, since we're already 10 minutes in the episode. I was trying to get my daughter to laugh, and I found a hula hoop, and I tried to hula hoop, and I fucked my back up with the hula hoop.
Oh, dude. Bro.
I'm an old piece of shit, man.
Bro.
Hula hoops are not made for 36-year-olds. I'll tell you that right now.
Get you on my go to the gym plan. Worked like a charm. Every 60% of the time it works every time.
Well, you know what? Throw a hula hoop in that regiment and come back and talk to me about how you feel.
It's not going to help me. Yeah. But we are here hypothetically to talk about Star Trek Voyager. What did we watch?
We watched a really good episode, man. Season 3, episode 4, The Swarm.
I don't know if I would say really good, but I would say at least good. We watched a good episode of Star Trek that was unfortunately stapled to a really like pointless B plot that for some reason is the title of the episode.
I don't know. We can get into full thoughts later on, but I was very happy with both parts of this, and the B plot actually gets us kicked off. So you got a helmsman log coming in. It's Tom Paris and B'Elanna, because why wouldn't you put your helmsman and chief engineer out in a shuttlecraft, which I'm going to start calling death carts. So why wouldn't you put two senior officers in one of your death carts way far away from the ship, scanning for an energy signal for some goddamn reason, while I forget what Voyager's even doing, taking on cargo.
They're taking on supplies, according to the log,
Mm-hmm.
and exactly what you're saying. Why the fuck aren't Jabroni, Ensign Jabroni, and crewman Jamoke the ones out there in a fucking death cart trying to go on a snipe hunt?
Yep.
Why the actual fuck are two of your most important crew members, your two most important and irreplaceable crew members, out on this goddamn thing looking for sensor ghosts? This, I mean, I know it's because we want to have our main characters have dialogue, and you know, nothing quite like teasing the romance that
Is to be,
you know, truly gives off the heat of a dying ember between B'Elanna and Tom Paris. But the premise of the fact that these two are essentially doing shit work all by them lonesome for hours and hours just makes no fucking sense to me.
well, I think the sense there is that Jerry Taylor has a allergy to giving anybody else camera time that might be considered secondary cast members. As you know, she's just killed all of them off. So yeah, you gotta.
That's true.
Keep the attention on the big boys.
If somebody we hadn't seen was in the shuttlecraft, they'd have been eaten by some kind of space monster within 2 episodes. It would not last.
Yeah, so they start flirting. Tom makes a pass at B'Elanna. She shoots him down, but she throws out a little smile that she appreciates the attention, I think. And right about that time, they start getting their sensor readings back. They hail an upcoming ship, and suddenly there's 2 bug people. And I thought their costumes, I mean, they're not like Space Muppet Baby adult version quality costumes, but you know, they get away from your standard perfectly human face with a little bit of silly putty between the eyes.
They looked, I would say, almost insectoid.
Yeah.
Like with like exoskeleton looking sort of gear.
Well,
it's a neat look.
It is a neat look, and I would absolutely say insectoid. It goes with the sound their communications make, and the swarm motif that this has. You know, we'll see later on with a swarm of smaller ships, but they pop on, and Tom and B'Elanna are kind of caught with their pants down and like, oh, hey, and they say some shit and then just quick draw and zap both their asses and leave them like stunned on the verge of death, basically, and then they zap off. The important takeaway from this for me, though, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time we have seen a race in the Delta Quadrant with transporter capabilities.
Well, not exactly. The Skeevians clearly had that level of technological capability. So
it's not common, though. I mean, the Kazons certainly didn't have...
The Vidians? I think the Vidians do?
No, because remember, the Vidians had to, like, land shuttlecraft on surfaces and fly off.
But did they explicitly not have...
I don't think we ever saw the Vidians ever teleport anywhere. Or, I'm sorry, transport anywhere. I'm going to say no.
Yeah, so unclear on if the Vidians had the capacity. Yeah, it's definitely rare. A point was made that Talaxians and the Harkonnens did not have it. And obviously the Kazon didn't. So most of the races that we spent any significant amount of time with, seasons 1 and 2, did not have it. And the Skeevians had a technology that was more advanced than beaming. So, you know, they would be the only exception.
I'm also going to go ahead and assume that Tom and B'Elanna didn't bother having the shields on the shuttlecraft up, and that's why they're able to beam in. But so they get gunned down, and then we, I think, run credits, and we come back in to Robert Picardo singing some opera with a very fetching wig.
So the scene is set of a duet from an opera. I don't know what it is. I'm sure it's probably in the Memory Alpha. I'm not an opera fan, but it's very Italian, and in particular, the lady who is singing opera with the doctor in this case is the most Italian stereotype character ever created. I mean, if this woman had a pizza in one hand and talked about being a plumber and like complained about trains not being on time and made a lot of like it was a concentration of every Italian stereotype into one person. The rudeness, the accent, the use of hand gestures. I mean, I was expecting this woman to say, "It's me, Mario." Like it was pretty fucking ridiculous, but it was hilarious at the same time.
Yeah, but how good did the doctor's wig look?
It looked good. The whole costume looked good. The scarf, the whole I want to say turn of the century vests kind of look. I liked it.
Yeah, very hipster. I gotta say, I really like this scene because they start in and they're just showing you some antiquated stucco walls and some wooden banisters. I instantly thought that we were back at Tom's whorehouse. The what's that place called? Chateau what? Whatever, the pool hall with all the fops.
Sandrines.
Yes. So it not being that, and instead of being the doctor getting some personal time, I thought was really cool. And ultimately, this diva duet opposite to the doctor singing starts throwing him like major attitude. And I felt like it was more attitude than you really ever see out of any of the hologram characters so far. And it's like, I'm just wondering if this was just some intentional hologram on hologram violence. Like, statistics show you're more willing to fight in people in your own socioeconomic status, and like the closer someone is to you, the more easily violence and disputes flow. And I don't think that the woman singing knew that the doctor was a hologram himself, but I found their exchange where like they started berating each other, and she makes the accusation that singing with you is terrible. It feels like I'm trying to sing with a computer. It was a very interesting juxtaposition of the two characters and exploitation of his situation, and I really, really, I don't know, the humor they were going for there. I felt what they were putting down.
I like your headcanon that the diva hologram was aware that the doctor was a hologram and therefore was purposefully saying shit that was going to be hurtful. I like that idea. It seemed to me that in reality she was ignorant, and that was the point, that she was saying things that were were true on accident.
Yeah.
And the doctor was aware how true they were, and he was like grimacing at some of the shit she was saying. But I prefer the idea that she knew that he was a hologram.
Jeez,
and therefore said shit that was hurtful out of spite.
What if all the holograms were just in character and they all had an out of character mode where it's like, I don't want to play this role again, kind of like Reboot, right? Remember the old TV show Reboot?
Oh yeah.
But there's rules like you can't say certain things to the humans, you can't break character. But it's like, oh, here comes this EMH, he thinks he's too good, he thinks he's not a real hologram, he thinks he's a human. And then they really just sass him, and all the things they're not allowed to say to humans, they
yeah, you've watched Altered Carbon?
Oh yeah.
Like all the hotels and the AIs that have poker and shit. Yeah.
Hands down, the best part of that series, I think, was them fleshing out the AI. That when the AI Poe gets him to finally sign off and become a hotel guest, and he wastes those bounty hunters. So good.
Oh yeah,
so good. That was the best part of the show. Anyways, but we get to the end of this scene, and the doctor forgets his lines. which I would think would be all sorts of red flags prompting, diagnostics and all that. But he chalks it up to the fact that this other lady just got his feathers so ruffled that, it made him forget. And he gets pulled out of the hologram simulation, off the holodeck by Janeway saying that they got a medical emergency because B'Elanna has, through her rough and tough Klingon half-ism or whatever, able to shrug off a little bit of this alien attack, get the shuttlecraft back to Voyager. But Tom's not doing so hot.
Yeah, Tom's struggling. He needs more medical attention. And as the doctor treats both of them, his memory issues start to become more apparent. There's an instrument that he's missing that he didn't know he moved. He says two contradictory things to B'Elanna about her status. And so the episode is starting to clearly tease that there's something going on with the doctor's memory. I got a quick question for you, though, Peter. You have intimated in the past that you knew that this was going to happen. Have you seen this one?
That I knew what was going to happen. That the doctor was... No. But, I mean, it had to be an obvious plot on the table. You've got a piece of software that was never meant to be used in the capacity that it is. Like, at what point do you start hitting growing pains?
You just guessed this was going to happen based on it's just too obvious a sci-fi trope not to happen.
It's too good not to happen. I mean, if they had never realized this episode, I would have been very, very disappointed.
Okay. I was just curious because it sounded almost like you knew it was going to happen because you were aware of the plot. Now you just understand genre fiction so well. You knew that it was impossible for them to take a pass on it for 7 years.
Well, I'd really hope
fair
that they
point.
Would. Where is the briefing scene coming with Neelix?
It's the very next scene. So I'm in the briefing room. They start to talk about who these mysterious assailants are, and that's when Neelix says, I've heard of who these guys are supposed to be, but it's all bad news. They're monsters that murder people, and you never should go into their space ever, because that's what they kill people for.
All right, so you brought up a while ago Neelix's eyes. Did he actually have, like, cat slit eyes at some point?
It was yellow contacts.
So the yellow contacts he has here are the same ones. Like, I thought he actually had, like, cat eyes for a minute, because they get a real close up on his face when he's saying, hey, I've heard rumors these dudes are kind of boogeymen. We don't want anything to do with these guys. And I saw that he was back to, like, the Data yellow lenses. This is a good scene for Neelix, I think, but it also reinforces, like, why is this guy cooking breakfast for the crew? He is your sole source of information for the Delta Quadrant. Minus the fact that you had a shuttlecraft go warp 10 and able to map the entire universe, so you should have, like, advanced telemetry on all this. But anyways, Neelix has the scoop. Instead of Neelix cooking people's eggs, like, shouldn't he be running college courses for the crew in shifts about, like, let me tell you everything I know about the Delta Quadrant? Because
I think you've brought this up maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, but already. It's like, I mean, like, oh, hey, here's this new terrible race of murderous insectoids that maybe I should have mentioned a month and a half ago when we got over there. Like, he shouldn't be the only person who knows about this stuff. There should be other people like, hey, Neelix, didn't you say, like, in that briefing seminar 2 weeks ago that this might be a thing we need to keep an eye open for? Just a lot of eggs in one basket.
I agree, but I think that the answer to your question is that they want to have Neelix as this outsider voice, and kind of turning him into the bartender at Cheers was their way to fit him into things where his expertise wouldn't necessarily be important to the scene, but they wanted his voice in the scene. So yeah, that's his value add to the crew in terms of, like, practicality. But, they want to bring that voice into situations where, like, we were talking about in Threshold, when he, like, inspired the the three of them about, how to approach the question they were dealing with getting the shuttlecraft to work.
What I say is he's an epiphany specialist or something.
Yeah, like an epiphany specialist or a confidant, or he's like going to be the sounding board in situations. We've seen him do that. And so that's what his like alternative use to the script and the story is, which is why he's cooking everyone's eggs, even though he's like, a treasure trove of practical information as well.
So we're going to talk about the B line a little bit here. I am going to grant you that the premise of this is bad, but I am going to say that everything else that stems off of it is good. Particularly Neelix's forewarning here, which I think is pretty creepy and impactful. And I'm going to give my gold star for the episode award to Tuvok, who I am firmly in his camp, and seeing him and Neelix kind of united under the same banner on this is good. So Neelix says, hey, there's these bug people. Nobody knows anything about them. But if you go in their space, you're never heard from again. End of story. And Chakotay...
he's very much afraid. Like, he gives off the fear vibe. Like, this is bad. I don't really know much about them except that this is basically Jaws. They just eat people. And he lays that out. And like you said, Tuvok throws shade all episode with his nonverbals.
It's delicious.
It's great. Like, it's so noticeable. I will say it's my favorite part of this B plot is just every time they shoot over to Tuvok and shit's going wrong, he's just got a look that says to you,
I told you,
see that shit?
You motherfuckers.
I told you.
Mm-hmm. So, Chakotay is looking at the map, and he has somehow done some space math on it and says, well, based on this, they have a very long but very shallow territory. And if we don't, breach their borders and go in unwelcome, and let's go ahead and chalk up what happened to Tom and Paris as a warning. And for whatever reason, the universal translator does not work on these bug people. And that's kind of funny because it's right back to the universal translator head scratcher. But if we respect their borders, we are going to have to fly up to 15 months out of our way to skirt around this space. And Janeway ain't having it.
Yeah, so we're talking about a Starship Voyager that veers off course to study every stupid ass, dumb ass, trifling ass spatial anomaly for science. We're talking about Starship Voyager that wasted 6 months going to and fro while the commander and Captain Janeway played house on their little lame house on the prairie because they had space disease. We're talking about a Voyager that's got 70 plus years of travel in front of it to get back home. And Janeway is like, nah, bitch, we ain't waiting an extra few months to be able to get around this space. Instead, we're going to go directly into fucking Jaws' hunting ground with our fucking ass hanging out with a goddamn stake attached to it. And we're going to just see if they bite. Because fuck them, they're bullies.
Yes, like, and she says that.
Fuck off!
She says that. It specifically, we're a long... here's how it plays out. They go, oh no, 15 months. And like you said, there's so much time on the plate for Voyager. 15 months, who gives a shit? Yeah, I get it's a year. But like you said, I mean, we've pissed time away for the stupidest reasons already. And their assumption is that they're going to find a black hole or a wormhole somewhere along the way and cheat their way home anyways. And whether you're going a straight line towards Earth and being diverted for your little cockamamie mystery schemes, or you're going a legit 15 months around where you're going to encounter God knows what, who cares? It's all the same thing. And at this point, I think it's who is it? No, it's obviously not Paris because he's laid up sick. It might have been Chakotay again, but someone's like, you're not saying that we're going to fly 15 miles around. And she says, I don't care. And then Tuvok interjects and says, well, what if I were to remind you that forcefully crossing borders and intruding into unwelcome space is against Starfleet regulations? And Janeway literally says, I don't give a shit. We are a long way from Starfleet, and I am not adding another 15 months to our journey because of bullies. Again, read bullies as a sovereign nation onto themselves with a government and all that other stuff.
It's absolutely bizarre to me that suddenly Captain Catherine Janeway, who is done everything in her power to not piss off sovereign, spacefaring civilizations as they try and get back home, just straight up says, with no real attempt at further first contact, without attempting any way to negotiate to go through this, her first plan is, fuck them. We're just gonna make a run for the border and just try and sprint across before we can and get out of their jurisdiction.
I'm not gonna let this go because this is gonna be my weakest shit award for season 3. Jump back to alliances, right? That's the one where Janeway. Well, I'm sorry, not even that. Jump back to last episode. The shoot. You know, she's willing to hand 14-year-olds over to life in prison because she doesn't want to upset the government. She doesn't want to get involved.
She wants to play play ball with these guys, so she's going to go ahead and hand over the terrorists, even though they're going to get tortured forever, because she just wants her people back and she wants to go home.
Jump back to alliances, where they end up meeting the Traben, or they're gonna strike up a deal with the Kazon. And at the end, when she has that super preachy speech, because ultimately the Traben ended up being like murderous psychos and the Kazon are buttholes as always, and she starts lecturing everybody, specifically Chakotay. We're in a part of space where there are few rules, and it's more important than ever that we hold fast to our own. In a region where shifting allegiances are commonplace, we have to have something stable to rely on, and we do. The principles and the ideas of the Federation. As far as I'm concerned, those are the best allies we could have. Fuck Starfleet, they're far away, and I'm not going to be inconvenienced by maybe 15 months if that's what it means to not be considered an invading force.
Perfectly put. It is definitely the weakest shit I have seen, and it makes the entire B plot just make Tuvok's smarmy look pay off every time they pan over to it, because they end up dealing with all this adversity and ship damage and problems because Janeway is impatient, and of course they get out of it. But
Tuvok, who just in the Excelsior episode was talking about how much he respects her, and Janeway in that same Excelsior episode who commended Tuvok for sticking to the rules and protesting to Sulu about Federation protocol. Yeah, Tuvok's shade in this real well placed.
I'm not gonna drag us through too much of that because I want to spend the rest of our time talking about this episode on the A plot.
Sure. So you got the doctor getting ready for surgery on time, and for some reason the hologram is sterilizing his hands, and he's singing some opera, and Kes is feeling what he's putting down.
This is a great Kes episode.
Absolutely,
I would say,
yes.
As well. Her presence in this episode expands as it goes on as I want to say the moral force in a lot of ways, the selfless person, the only person who is genuinely interested in saving the doctor. And what happens is that the doctor goes over to do surgery on Tom to repair the damage that's been done to his brain as a consequence of the weapons of this race. And he finds that he has forgotten how to do the surgery. And they go to commercial and they come back. It's clear Kes has been dictating to him how to do the surgery. And even that is starting to not be effective. And Kes has to take over doing the surgery to complete it before Tom Paris accidentally dies in something that was supposed to be routine.
Yeah, so this is kind of a interesting turn of events here because Tom's fucked up and he's kind of comatose, but his life's not in danger yet. It seems like they've got some time to explore options. The fact the doctor knows that he's like having something. He's not functioning at 100% and still starts this non-critical surgery at this point. I think casts some real doubts on the doctor's regard for Tom's ultimate health, I guess.
Well, you can chalk it up to the degradation of the program.
I'm going to chalk it up to the fact that when the doctor thought that Tom was a holographic projection back in, was it Hollow Pursuits? Or Projections. Remember,
it was Projections, yeah.
He intentionally deleted Tom. He does not like Tom. Tom's life means nothing.
They cut back after they're done with the surgery to some diagnostic talk about the doctor. And it's revealed that B'Elanna had installed safety buffers into the doctor's program to accommodate his long running time and expansion of his memory that came as a consequence. But his memory has expanded so much that it's starting to break down, and there's some kind of fault that has occurred. And as a consequence, they only have one really good option in front of them that they know about, which is to reinitialize the doctor. But to do so would be to essentially eliminate his memory of the last 2 years, which is important because it would eliminate his personality that he's developed in that 2 years. And that's something that Cass immediately steps up in defense of and ultimately convinced the doctor and B'Elanna to pursue some other diagnostic issues to try and identify the problem and eliminate it, because eliminating the doctor as a person by obliterating his experiences in memory would be essentially killing him in the sense that he would no longer be the person that he is now, which, of course, the entire episode, it has a theme that starts out subtle and becomes very explicit, pardon me, about the ravages of diseases that some of us have personal experience with, like Alzheimer's and dementia, that change a person fundamentally when they ravage the core of who we all are, which is our lived experiences and memories.
Yeah. So Michael Sussman wrote this episode, and his only Voyager credit up to this point was Meld, which I thought was another strong episode.
Good, well-written episode, yes.
And yeah, his initial script on this was a very Alzheimer's-centric bend on this entire thing, and they changed things up, and I think probably ultimately for the best. But this is a very good scene for a couple different reasons. One, this is, let's see, when did this come out? 96, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about essentially a factory reset on the doctor. Erase all settings, delete all installed programs, and get your baseline off-the-shelf EMH back. They don't know it's actually the extent of his memories are what's causing the problem. They just think it's some issue with his circuits. And what I like in early sci-fi is when you have these stories you're trying to tell about very common terms and situations for us in modern day, but back then they didn't, it was just conceptual. So, when they talk about the doctor, they're always talking about, his memory circuits and this and that, and they use these archaic terms instead of like, hey, just his program. It doesn't have to be physical circuits on the wall. It's just his program. And it reminds me of Westworld, the movie. And if you ever get a chance to go back and watch Westworld, it sucks. But it touches on some really cool stuff. And again, in Westworld, it's this movie that was made back in the 70s, and they start describing a computer virus, an organic problem that can move from machine to machine and infect the entire lot. And like, nobody says virus because that wasn't a word that existed back then, but that's exactly what they're describing. And it's the same way here where they're, talking about a factory reset and losing his personality. And I thought it was very fitting because they had Janeway in sickbay for this discussion. And, they come to the conclusion, all right, well, let's just factory reset the doctor because, and it's, even the doctor says, look, my personality and the fact I like opera and whatever else, it's not important. I'm here to save the crew. And if that means doing a factory reset, then so be it. And it's Kess, like you said, that jumps to his defense and starts touching on some previous Doctor episodes. Like, you've fallen in love and you have a personality and friends and relationships. You can't just throw that all away, even though they won't mention Dr. Pell's name, who they left to be, dragged off to death camp and recycled for organs by her terrible fascist government.
That's very true. Oh, an oblique reference is all we can hope for.
Yeah, but it's very fitting for Kes to be the one to really champion the cause of, no, you're a person, you need to be respected as such, and we need to exhaust every method available to save you, because let's say the factory reset doesn't fix a problem. Well, then the problem's going to have to be fixed anyways, and now all we've done is a reinstall that we didn't have to. And if you jump back to, I can't remember which episode, but it's really Kes who champions the Doctor as a person versus a appliance.
Yeah, at the very beginning of the show, like first few episodes, Kes is the one that ends up going to the Doctor's defense with Janeway when Janeway's thinking about like reprogramming him and doing shit because he's, got a gruff manner. And he's the one who's like, no, he's a person and you need to treat him like one. And I'm going to be real disappointed in you if you don't.
Yeah.
And that led to Janeway having a real like uncomfortable talk. Like she's talking to her toaster about like its personal wants and needs. Like it was an important early moment, and it's paying off here, which is why I liked it. Like Kes,
as an advocate.
Kes has been an advocate of the Doctor the entire time. And in many ways, her character is intrinsically tied to him.
I feel like it's almost like one character, like two sides of the same character.
That Kes is like this naive, literally born yesterday, right? Is the trope for her. She's from a species that is our mayflies, essentially. And she, in many ways, represents the opposite of the Doctor in the sense of being very emotionally in tune, very, idealistic, perfect bedside manner, while the Doctor is growing from her example and is in this case defended by it. I liked it. I liked how the dynamic worked out. And if they dialed back some of the Alzheimer's stuff in this episode, then quite frankly, they didn't dial it back much, because the entire third and fourth act of this episode really digs deep into that. And what we end up seeing from Voyager here is that B'Elanna runs out of options looking at it herself, and ultimately decides to consult the holographic representation of the diagnostic program for the EMH, which happens to be in a holographic recreation of Jupiter Station, and the persona inhabited by this program is actually Louis Zimmerman, the creator of the EMH, who looks exactly like the EMH and is, of course, also played by Robert Picardo. And, Peter, I'll let you know, you may not know this, that Louis Zimmerman is a character that shows up on DS9, and this will not be the only time that he shows up on Voyager.
Yeah, he also has a really nice medieval lab coat he's wearing there that's all wrinkled. It's a very interesting way to involve him. He's not just it's not just like a help file, So the EMH, I think Intrepid class is probably the first ship to have the EMH system installed, and they've got a diagnostic program, like you said, that in the event that this thing goes haywire, that you can run it like a help wizard. And I think it's really cool that it is a person. It's an interactive file to help you troubleshoot, and that you do get this taste of Louis Zimmerman. So it's Robert Picardo minus brushed hair in a yellow jumpsuit. Because the teaser for this saying that we're going to see a familiar face, my money was that we were going to get more Barkley.
Yeah, I figured you might think that.
Originally, according to the Memory Alpha, Picardo had pitched this idea to the writer's room that, he would encounter his creator, and his vision for Zimmerman was that Zimmerman himself was a doctor, and that something so traumatic had happened that had shaken him that he moved away from actually practicing medicine and instead applied his medical knowledge to creating a utility that would allow medicine to happen, but not through his hands directly. And that he could kind of divorce himself from the trauma of having to witness death and suffering firsthand, and that you would be dealing with a very meek and broken and kind of a shell of a man as opposed to his creation. I don't think that's really what we got here.
Oh no, they dialed Zimmerman into very much a misanthropic, sarcastic, type of character who he's like almost like an obsessive artist that becomes detached from social niceties as a consequence.
I love his treatment of the Doctor through the episode, where he does not even regard it as a person that is there. And we've talked heavily about how do you create the Doctor and not just let him run indefinitely in your office while you work bugs out. And I think this really stresses the fact that to Zimmerman, the EMH is not a person. It is just a force field with hands that does a thing, that the personality and nothing else matters. It's just, is this thing able to adeptly administer medicine or not? And any potential for artificial intelligence or depth was completely not on the radar.
I like that this episode also establishes why it is not possible for the Doctor to be the or a holographic crew to be the end-all be-all solution. That the resources in allowing a program to expand is considerable and consequently detrimental potentially. The Zimmerman hologram again played with a very. Picardo does a great job of playing the two different characters in such a distinct way that leaves no doubt as to the differences between the two. And it grows even and more notable as the EMH continues to have its condition go further and further downward, and its cognition and mental capacity clearly starts to disintegrate.
I love in the scene when B'Elanna's, because initially they're just trying to troubleshoot this thing, right? Like, what could be causing the problem? Zimmerman looks at the file on the EMH and says, well, here's your problem right here. It's flooded its memory capacity. And again, you're dealing with a snapshot help file that is completely oblivious to what Voyager's has going on. And he says, well, basically, this thing's gone on too long. And then B'Elanna says, well, we've had him on for 2 years. And the look on Zimmerman's face was like, he's like, 2 years? Like, how crazy this is that the EMH should be running. And he says, when I thought this was really good background lore, that the EMH was designed with a maximum runtime of 62 and a half days. So they have far surpassed this thing. And, what have you been doing that's eating up all this memory? And where's this opera coming from? And the Doctor's like, oh, well, I've started studying opera in my off time. And he's like, you're supposed to be turned off in your off time. Like, you are way outside of spec on this thing.
It's a great come to Jesus moment as to how far Voyager has started to stretch the capacity of their ship already after just a couple years.
It's also important that we are at 2 years of the voyage at this point.
Yeah. And which makes sense because some of the time compression at the beginning has been alleviated through some pretty big gaps in other episodes. So I buy it that they're 2 years deep.
Absolutely.
Now. To speed things along just a little bit, because we're already at 50 minutes here. What happens is that Zimmerman diagnoses that, as you noted, as he works with the EMH, that it's his expansion of his personality and personal interests that has been destabilizing his memory. Eventually, Cass enters the scene on this because B'Elanna is being called away to deal with the shitty B plot as Voyager makes basically a run for the border. Doing some techno babble, and they're going to evade their sensors. And
I did
whatever.
like the satyr dude.
Yeah, they encounter an alien race, and this is the only time you see it, and it's like got a lot of extensive makeup. Like they put a lot of time into the effort and the design of this guy. They find a victim of the swarm aliens, essentially, to warn them a little bit about what they're about to face before conveniently dying. And he's a good-looking alien. It's unfortunate they don't use him again.
I think it's hilarious that Janeway's like, I don't care about Starfleet rules. We're going to gun it through this super hostile space as fast as we can at max warp for a couple hours. We know we're getting drag on the warp engine. Something's fucky about this area. And yeah, they ultimately drop out. And that's what cost them is dropping out to poke at this this jumped ship. And that's there's still an alien vessel attached. It scouts Voyager and it calls back to home. And now the jig is up, and the swarm of alien fighter craft know Voyager is there, and they start getting in hot pursuit.
Because B'Elanna has been occupied by this necessity, Kes has started, essentially steps in for the rest of the episode and trying to help the Doctor. And his condition has gotten worse and worse and worse. And Kes's medical capacity has clearly reached some pretty competent levels. She completed the surgery on Tom. She does a game job of trying to save the satyr alien. So it's an interesting note there that she's really like reached almost you would say like nurse levels at least. And she's now trying to care for the Doctor and what's happening to him. And she goes to the Zimmerman hologram. Their first encounter, he mocks her regard for the EMH. That what she perceives as his emotions and lived experiences are just a simulation, not anything real. And Kes's defense of him is just very like gut naive type of reasoning. And I thought it was kind of neat. Like in that first scene, almost felt like the Zimmerman hologram got the better of the conversation just by pointing out like, hey, look, it's malfunctioning. Does it remember you now? No. Okay, well then what was it then? What was it feel? Did you actually think it was feeling anything? It's not. It's a program. It was reflecting its environment. And I think ultimately Kes proves her point by going back when she goes back to the Zimmerman hologram and what happens there. But I thought that introduced an interesting idea in terms of what AI means. How is it different than, say, you or me and our memories and our lived experiences, and what could happen to us if we, had brain damage or got Alzheimer's and that started to degrade? Would we be any different? And in which case, is what happened? Is the Doctor any more real in intelligence than you or I?
Yeah. Holding up a mirror to the Doctor and saying that all the new, essentially what he's saying is, I see I've made a problem and I've made this too lifelike to the point where it's distracting the crew and causing them to value an appliance more than they should have. And I don't know. I'll be curious to see how Zimmerman works in later, like if he's actually proud of what the creation's become, or if there's, like this guy's made to be disposable essentially. And now you could have human life endangering itself ultimately to try and preserve this guy. I need to dial it back and make it a little bit more stiff.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised for the most part for when Zimmerman makes a reappearance. But ultimately, Kes, running out of options with the Doctor fading fast and no one to help, goes back to the Zimmerman hologram in the final act of the episode and says, listen, I need you to help me fix him. It's just you and me, and I'm not leaving without an option, so give me an option. And he basically protests to say, listen, that's not what I'm programmed for. I'm programmed to be a help wizard, not to think outside the box. And then Kes turns it around on him and says, actually, you can. And I know you can because the Doctor can. And if the Doctor can, clearly, as you are programmed in the same way that he is, you fucking can. And suddenly, Zimmerman sort of like straightens his back up and goes, yeah, I guess you're right.
It's like
I can.
It's like she just popped him open and put some more RAM in and like upgraded him. He's like, oh yeah, I thank you for overcoming my shackling. You've now enabled me to, operate autonomous. I thought this episode further drives home the point that holographic crew members who are hyper focused and can hyper specialize are a viable option. This diagnostic program being on par with what the doctor can, and here this thing has been sitting in the computer, and they say circuits, and I want to go back to this. Like, this isn't just a program running on ship's resources. There has to be dedicated hardware to this thing specifically, and that's what leads to the idea that, hey, you can cannibalize my program to upgrade him and give him more storage capacity. We blew through it earlier, but while B'Elanna was talking to Zimmerman earlier on, she's like, well, if he's exceeded his memory storage, can't we just get more? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. Just schedule an upgrade at McKinney Station next time you're through. And she's like, yeah, we're in the Delta Quadrant. That's not going to happen. So yeah, them just dragging this second program's hardware to reinforce the EMH and graft the two together becomes the solution here. But they don't know it's going to work. Much like they wouldn't really know if they would be able to split up Tuvix back into Tuvok and Neelix.
But they did it anyway.
But where they don't even question the fact that might not work completely, it's a big deal in this episode. And they know it's going to take a while. And this is right at the height of Red Alert. I love how Kes goes up on the bridge while they're being hounded by these murderous insectoids, and it's like, Captain, I need help with the hologram. Can I please have Harry Kim? And Janeway's like, do you not see the red flashing lights? Get the fuck out of here, Kes. Unless you got hors d'oeuvres, you're not welcome on the bridge right now.
Go get your filthy space cat boyfriend and get some goddamn pigs in a blanket up here, stat. I'm about to start shooting shit. I need snacks.
Kes, why are you not bringing deep fried egg rolls? What is wrong with you?
So, what I thought was a neat coming full circle was that Kes is able to reach the Zimmerman hologram in the same way that she originally reached the Doctor's hologram.
Yep.
And it belays the idea that Kes is right, that there's a latent sort of
potential
element to there's an element of artificial intelligence that has the potential to be a very real intelligence when it reaches a certain level of sophistication in its design. And clearly Zimmerman's holograms, whether it be the Doctor or the hologram of Zimmerman himself, have reached that point, and they have that potential, and they can be reached to go beyond what they were programmed to do, which is what separates them from the VI, virtual intelligence, to use the Mass Effect phrase that we used many, many moons ago, of early hologram stuff that we saw in TNG that was very purposefully limited to the AI that the Doctor and the Zimmerman hologram represent. And as essentially the Zimmerman hologram fuses its existence to the Doctor, kind of essentially killing himself, but also living on within the Doctor in a weird way to fix him. And, blah, 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 Voyager gets out of its stupid self-inflicted space jam with the swarm aliens by Technobabble. Who fucking cares?
Yeah.
And
good phaser fight on the bridge.
Yeah, there's a cool idea of like these aliens have a kind of a auto beam out, like the Borg. So they like show up and try and shoot people, and then they get shot at, and then their body gets beamed back out to their ship. It's like an emergency pull tab. Yeah. So they're not left behind.
Mercury switches. And yet another time that Voyager has been raided. And I would say this time, good on Voyager for, not completing getting their ass kicked in an invasion scenario.
And we wrap with the Zimmerman's last gasp attempt to fix the Doctor completing. They reactivate the Doctor, and again, well done on Picardo's part. He plays the season 1 version of himself, which is much more taciturn. He doesn't seem to remember anybody. He's very cold. It's unclear at initially what has happened. Has he just been reset? But they suggest right there at the end, as he starts humming some of the opera he was working on earlier on the episode, that he has retained his memories. It just may take time for that experience to reintegrate into who he is.
That I thought was the confusing part of the episode, because they did very clearly make it look like he had been factory reset, which was the fear that this graft would fix the problems if they were to occur again, or prevent the problems from occurring again. But they didn't know if it would retain his current version memory. I think that I read that this is a bottle episode, and that his return of memories is not something that is going to be a slow story arc. And, I'm sure that by next episode, he's going to be right back at it, plain as day, or, perfect reset. When I say reset, I mean Doctor as we knew him, not Doctor as he, is out of the box.
Because I'm spoiled, of course, it was easy for me to make the leap to what that tease at the end meant. I can understand it could be a little bit more unclear to someone who wasn't spoiled.
I mean, it's essentially the Nemesis ending for Data. Like, Data's dead, but, B4 is there, and, that it's a different thing, but why can he whistle this song that Data liked singing? And are these the seeds of a new Data growing? Is this going to come back? I don't know.
True. It is, but it's unlike the B4 ending, which felt very forced. This felt like a natural outgrowth of them really testing limits of this technology and what the Doctor is capable of. And, seems like it's going to maybe work out that who he was is still in there somewhere, but, they're going to have to get through this by the seat of their pants a little bit. And ultimately, though, it's a great episode in the A plot. Everything with the Doctor, Picardo turns in basically, I want to say 3 good performances. The Doctor normally, the Doctor in declining mental health, and then Zimmerman.
Yes.
It is all buttressed by Cass's presence as a character, very complimentary of the whole affair. And it's worth watching for that part. The B plot's stupid. It's mostly technobabble, and it has the stupidest reason for existing of all time.
I loved the episode. The A plot was great, and I thought the B plot was stupid on premise, but it was excellent for making a case that Janeway continues to be a terrible captain. It was great for Tuvok's shade, which he reliably and correctly throws the entire episode. I thought it was a really good B'Elanna episode too. She gets to start fleshing out some of her interpersonal relationships. I think she finally bridges that gap and starts viewing the Doctor as a person and not just as a annoying thing that's always breaking that she has to fix. I really enjoy some of the facial expressions she makes while Zimmerman's trying to argue with her and doubt her. Like,
I would agree. Yeah.
Poke at her pride. Kes, super strong. I mean, again, Kes and the Doctor are a package deal. I don't know what they're going to do with the Doctor when she's not there, because I think they feel like 2 sides of the same character. And then Janeway is just completely off her rocker in this episode. Her disregard of Starfleet, she's like, while they're going through and saying what might be wrong with the Doctor and advocating this reset, like, she's a real stone cold bitch about the whole thing. I felt like it's a throwback to the beginning of the series where she just doesn't care. Keep in mind, the Doctor is a war hero. The only reason you have your ship that you threw away over Chakotay's maybe baby is because Lon Suter and the Doctor gave it back to you. Like, the Doctor's MVP status, show him some respect. He's a war hero.
I mean, they do. I mean, it's not like Janeway needed a lot of convincing to pursue this.
Yeah.
I mean, so they were trying.
I don't know, man. She just felt cold the whole episode.
But yeah, I mean, whatever. The premise of the episode is fuck Starfleet regulations, fuck common sense, fuck diplomacy. Let's man the torpedoes full speed ahead, and let's just try and
drop out of warp and get in a pickle. Well, it's a great trap.
Beat the fucking marshals to the border and get to Mexico, man. Like, that's like a fucking Western.
I think she knew it was going to be a big problem, and being the trap queen, she just couldn't help herself. But no, I love this. The Doctor-centric episodes are consistently the high point of this series for me, and I think that they're really doing a great job with them now, starting to spread the wealth around and draw people into good situations.
I completely agree. Doctor episodes are always strong. This is no exception. And my dislike of the B plot does not detract from this being an overall good watch and one that I'd recommend. It's a good one. I would say that we have been visited by the good episode fairy 2 times in a row now.
Yeah.
Which makes me a little worried about what we have coming up next.
Speaking of coming up next.
What is it?
Season 3, episode 5, False Prophets. And we've got a Ferengi dressed like a pimp. We got Janeway.
Shit.
We got Tuvok.
Oh, shit.
After meeting 2 Ferengis who have set themselves up as gods on a primitive planet, the Voyager crew plans to use a nearby wormhole to return home. I'm fucking pumped about this episode.
Oh, you fucking should be, brother. This is some fucking straight up
Season 4 TNG,
fan
man.
service. Oh, this is some fucking nonsense, but it's fun. This is a fun episode.
I was watching TNG. I want to say it was season 4, season 5. Yeah, with Devani Rull, that Beta Z psychopathic brother of Lon Suter, and the Ferengis were screwing around the wormhole, which they said goes to the Delta Quadrant. It closed, and I was like, "Oh my god, do those guys get to be in Voyager?" I have to.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, I'm fucking pumped about this thing, man. I'm ready to go.
All right, man.
So yeah, and speaking of the Ferengi, I think I actually have a rule of acquisition to close us out on this one with.
Please do.
Since the Doctor hit his memory constraints and it started causing him problems, rule of acquisition number 45: expand or die.
Yeah, literally in this case. So the hype train's going to keep rolling. Early season 3 Voyager is made up for a bad start with a solid 2-episode streak.
Yeah,
sounds like we might get to 3. So if you've been enjoying Voyager, please, A Hateful Voyage to the Delta Quadrant, make sure to comment or share or like our Facebook presence, join our discussion group, send us a review us on iTunes, whatever you feel comfortable doing. We'd appreciate it, and we will see you next time.